Okay, so we're going to give this a shot. This is our pre-test, test 12B, and we're going to go ahead and give you all the answers for this. I want you to get everything right, but more than that, I want you to go through and do everything on your own first, and if you get it wrong, follow along. So hopefully you have the first problem done. So the answer to it is 32 cents. If you didn't get that, go back and rework it and then check it again. The answer will be 32 cents again when you come back. So I'm going to try to explain this. So if a half gallon of milk costs $1.28, what is the cost per pint? Okay, so there are 2 pints in a quart, and there are 4 quarts in a gallon. So 2 times 4, and this is brand new for me with this mouse, we'll try it, equals 8. So there's 8 in a gallon, 8 pints in a gallon. But this says it's a half gallon, so we need half of that. Half of 8 is 4. So 4 pints cost $1.28. If 4 pints cost $1.28, we take $1.28. This is tough. It's a lot harder than it looks. That's ugly. All right, $1.28 divided by 4. 4 goes into 12 3 times. 4 goes into 8 2 times. Answer is 32 cents. Hooray. Circle my answer. And yes, that's a 2. Okay. Problem on the test tomorrow will be the exact same, just different numbers. You'll probably solve it the same way. So moving on to number 2. The cookie recipe called for raisins and nuts, the ratio of 3 to 2. If 1 cup of nuts is called for, how many cups of raisins were needed? So our answer before we go any farther is 1.5 cups. If you did not get that, go back and rework it. So we have a ratio of raisins, there's an R, to nuts, and the ratio is 3 to 2. So for every 3 raisins we have 2 nuts. Now it tells us that we have 1 cup of nuts. So this is a hideous 2. I think I wrote a N instead of a 2. Look at that. That's a 2. Okay. So we only use 1 cup of nuts, and so we're looking at the ratio both ways. This is your ratio box, 3 to 2, and then going up and down you have 2 to 1. Well, 1 is half of 2, and so whatever our answer is, it has to be the same relation up and down. So that 3, well, it has to be half of 3. Half of 3 is 1.5, and you label this cups. Very ugly. Okay, so that's how we solve. Hopefully we got that. All right. Layla ran the 200-meter race 3 times. Her fastest time was 26.3 seconds. Her slowest time was 30.3 seconds. If Layla's average time was 28 seconds, what was her time for the 3rd race? Before we go any farther, you should have got 27.4 seconds. And the way that you would do that, let's try the text and see if this is a little easier. It tells us we have 26.3. It tells us we have 30.3. It tells us the average was 28, and there were 3 of them. So, oh, I lost my last one. Hello, text box. 30.3. All right. So it tells us that the average is 28 seconds. It tells us there are 3 races. We know we find average by taking all of the total numbers, multiplying it by the number. We take all the numbers, we add them together, and then we divide by the number of numbers. So we have 28 times 3, and that's going to give us the same answer for the average, 28 times 3. So 8 times 3 is 24. Carry my 2. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. I know altogether it took her 84 seconds. So it took her 84 seconds altogether, and we know what we have here. Wow, that's an ugly circle. 3 plus 3 is 6. 6 plus 0 is 6. 2 plus 3 is 5. So after 2 races, these 2 that we know of, she had 56.6 seconds for the total for those 2. And then the grand total for all 3 is 84. So we find out the difference, 84 minus 56.6. Man, this is tough. Draw my line, and we subtract it out, and you'll end up getting 27.4. Make sure we're labeling this seconds. There's my S. All right, moving on. Number 4, y equals 3x plus 1. Okay, so we already know what x is. We find y. So y equals 3x plus 1. So we have 3, and we just plug our numbers in. 3 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3, plus 1 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And then we plug in this number. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. So our answer should be 1, 4, 7, 10. And moving over and up. What is the total cost of $12.50 plus an 8-cent sale tax item? Okay, we've talked about a shortcut way to do this. But usually you think 12.5 times 8%. 8% is not 8.00, but it is 0.08. So if I just did this, this would tell me the cost of the sales tax, but only the cost of the sales tax. You don't want to leave it at that, or you're going to get it wrong. Before we go farther, our total answer should be $13.50, and obviously, if it's $12.50 plus 8% sales tax, my answer, just estimating, should be somewhere just over $12, probably in the $13 range somewhere, right? So I multiply this out and I get the sales tax, but then I have to add in the original cost plus that sales tax. So in order to just include the sales tax right away, I can just multiply it times 1.08, because 12.5 times 1 is 12.5, so you can just add it in right there. Then when you multiply this all out, you should get your total of $13.50. Make sure you show your work. That way I know you multiplied it all out, but that's how you set up the problem. I trust your multiplication skills. Just want to make sure we're setting the problems up correctly here. So moving down. Read the statement that answers the question. Only 3/10 of the print area of the newspaper carried news. Okay, so 3/10 was news. That means the rest was ads. Wow. So what percent was filled with ads? Well, it's 7/10, but that's not a percent. So if we have 3/10, what's left? 10/10 minus 3/10 is 7/10. So as a percent filled with ads, you should have 70%. It's going to take me longer to write 70% than it is to figure out the problem. What was the ratio of news to advertisement? So first is news. We have 3 to advertisement. And there's a couple ways you could write this. You could write 3:7 or 3/7, but that's what it should end up getting. So moving along. In scientific notation, we have to have one number in front of the decimal. So it has to be 4 point something, because that's my first non-zero number, 4.05. And we're going to have it times 10 to the something. So in order to figure that out, we have to see how many places we have to move this over. So we have to move the decimal over 1, 2, 3 spaces. So a couple people have a hard time with which direction to move this. We have 4.05 times 10 to the third, but that's not the answer yet. If we have 4.05, is that bigger or smaller than 0.0045? this number is smaller, right? So if I have 4.5, I have to make that smaller. I'm not going to make it smaller by multiplying it by 1,000, because 10 to the third is 1,000. I end up with 4,000, right? So I have to make it smaller, so I'm going to put a minus sign, so I move it the correct direction. So my answer should be 4.05 times 10 to the third. Moving on. Sketch a quadrilateral with two pairs of parallel sides. A lot of people are having trouble with this just because this doesn't mean it's a square necessarily, because these lines are parallel. Well, kind of, for my drawing. Even though they're going diagonally. This is not a square, this is not a rectangle. This could also work, and it is a rectangle. You could also have a square, but the general term, the most general term, your keyword is parallel in there. And if you take that as a big hint, you can figure out what your answer is. Last one on this side, use a unit multiplier to convert 1,320 yards to feet. Okay. So we know that the conversion ratio, first we can write 1,320, and we're going to make sure and label it yards. Conversion ratio then is 3 feet, man that's ugly, equals 1 yard. So this is feet, this is yards, and then we're going to multiply it. So that's what a unit multiplier is. For every 3 feet we have 1 yard. So to multiply it, we make this a fraction also, and then we can multiply it straight across. 1,320 over 1 is the same as 1,320. So then we just multiply straight across. 3 times 0 is 0, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 9 is, 3 times 9, there's a Freudian slip, 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 1 is 3. So we have 3,960 over 1, which is the same as 3,960. And then how do we label it? Well, we have yards here, and we have yards here. So those two cross out, and we have feet. So we have 3,960. I'll stick my label over there, feet. And that is the first half of the test, and then we're going to be flipping it over.